It's Wednesday, April 4th. I'm Scott.
I'm Rim.
And this is Geeknights. Tonight, we preview the new anime, Moonlight Mile. Let's do this.
Those of you who listened to all 4 nights of Geeknights might have heard a wonderful clip yesterday from another show where one of the hosts of that show had some words for our dear friend Scott here.
It's hard not to laugh.
Yeah, I know. All right, the deal here is, we didn't really go into it yesterday, partly because it was video game day, and not many of our listeners on Tuesday really care about the difference between shoujo and shonen manga.
Yeah, let's tell the story here. All right. So, we reviewed last week. Was it last week?
It was indeed.
We reviewed a manga called 2 Terra, and Anime World Order released their review of the same thing on the same night.
Yep, slightly later, I might add.
Yeah, slightly later. But apparently they said that was on purpose so that we couldn't steal information from their review and use it in ours.
How'd they even know we were doing it?
Because I told them. I was bragging to them like, we're going to beat you in the race to review 2 Terra.
Wait a minute, so you told them you were going to beat him, and then they conveniently, we're planning on waiting and... Okay.
Yeah. Anyway. So I had emailed them weeks ago. Let's see if I can find the exact... March 7th, I emailed them. So a month ago. I emailed them, and I said, because I had just gotten 2 Terra in the mail, and I had read it, and Vertical, the company that publishes 2 Terra, was advertising it and marketing it as a shoujo Star Trek, or a sci-fi emo, or whatever, they called it a shoujo. And it is written and drawn by Keiko Takamiya, who is a shoujo master.
Yep, however, it was apparently published in Japan in a shonen magazine, so...
It was also... a shonen manga.
Well, all the deal is, we showed it to a bunch of our friends. We got them all to read it. And without question, they'd all ask after we gave it to them, so how is this shoujo?
Yeah, and I asked them, I asked Alex when I gave it to him, I said, all right, take this. And just, when you're reading it, think about, is this shoujo or not? And tell me what you think. And when he came back, he was like, yeah, I don't think this is shoujo, man. So... I emailed Anime World Order because they know more about anime than we do, supposedly. But they think they do. Or at least I learn a lot. I learn a lot of things I didn't know when I listened to their show. So I often go to them with my anime questions, most of the time involving old robots, but sometimes not.
Old robots or directors that aren't listed in the Anime News Network.
Yeah, stuff like that. So I said, hey, I'm going to paraphrase my email, but I said, why is 2 Terra marketed as shoujo when it's not? And I said a bunch of other things.
Basically, he said, oh my god, 2 Terra is awesome. It's almost as good as Tezuka. OMG, this shit is hot.
I said, here, I'll read my email because it's short, all right? All right, guys, here's a tough question that might require all of your powers combined to answer. I just read 2 Terra Volume 1 from Vertical. The sales pitch they've been using is that this thing is shoujo Star Trek. The creator, Keiko Takamiya, is supposedly a great shoujo manga master. I said supposedly there because I didn't know who Keiko Takamiya was until a few weeks ago. So I said supposedly because that's what I heard. After reading it, all I can say is I don't notice any shoujo at all. This is straight up epic sci-fi manga. I mean, this shit is awesome. I don't want to say it, but I might have to say it's on Tezuka's level. I never thought anything could be better than Phoenix, but this has the potential. It all depends on what happens in the rest of the volumes. Anyway, how the hell is the shoujo? The character designs are a little bit shoujo-ish, but other than that, I noticed nothing that makes 2 Terra a shoujo manga. I mean, if this is shoujo, then so is Phoenix Volume 2. What's the deal? Is there going to be some hidden BL in Volume 2 that I'm not prepared for?
I'd like to jump in to note that according to the PR people for it, the answer is yes.
Warn me now. Also, there's a 2 Terra anime coming out in April. If it's as good as this manga, all I can say is woot.
Now... I don't know what kind of response we expected. Maybe they're marketing it this way because of blah. Or, well, technically it was published blah and blah and blah and all the stuff that we wouldn't know. But instead, now, this is a paraphrase clip because if you want to hear the whole thing, just listen to their show. I don't want to waste too much time on this, but this is the response Scott got, more or less.
There are multiple questions here.
Do you think that if I concentrate hard enough, I could kill him with the power of my mind? The thing is, his email is stupid for reasons that have nothing to do with the fact that it's not technically
It's a fundamentally...
It doesn't take all our fucking powers combined because this is such a retarded question that, no, any one of us can answer this. Even if it was shoujo, you would still be a condescending sexist asshole. Oh, it's straight up sci-fi, so it couldn't possibly be shoujo. You don't want to say that a shoujo work could be on par with Tezuka. I think Hagio Moto, the female Tezuka, as she's referred to, would have something to fucking say about that, first off. Do you have any idea what shoujo means? Do you have any idea what these classifications mean in Japan? She's one of the women who helped to fucking define shoujo. God, how insulting is this? Like, I just can't get over how dismissive this email is of shoujo manga. Insinuating that, how could such a solid sci-fi series possibly be a girl's manga? And that kind of thing.
As if to imply that only guys...
Girls
really...
can't write sci-fi. It doesn't excuse the stupidity of this email, though. What? That's retarded. There's no words for how retarded that is. And I guess it pisses me off more because, this is Geeknights. I mean, these guys do a podcast where they talk about anime. And you guys are always boasting about how much you know. Misters, we ran the RIT anime club. So our otaku cock is the biggest. What now? No, I'm not cool with this.
That's now, every time it's funny to listen to it.
Now, all the people we've asked about this who happen to hear this episode or whatever, and I'll note that this audience includes both men and women, really don't know why that happened. Because they also wonder why this is a shoujo.
Let's just talk about a few points rather than going over the whole thing line by line. All right. First of all, my opening sentence of, it might require all your powers combined to answer. That's just a silly line to open an email with. It's not like a literal thing.
If anything, even if it was literal, then wouldn't that mean that you're putting great stock in their powers and that it's something you don't have the power to answer and you trust them to do so?
Perhaps it does. Also, my quip about I might have to say it's on Tezuka's level, she was all like, oh, you can't say a shoujo's as good as Tezuka? I'm like, no, I can't say anything is as good as Tezuka, except Will Eisner.
Scott has this pedestal, and on it are Tezuka and Will Eisner. And there's pretty much no one else in the world who's even close to the base of that pedestal.
No, Alan Moore is on tier 2, man. You gotta watch out.
Yeah.
That's how high that pedestal is.
If anything, the fact that Scott said that this work approaches Tezuka's level is a compliment of the highest order.
Secondly, all that other stuff that she was going crazy about, like, a woman can't make good manga. Where did I say that?
Aside from the fact that...
I just read my email. Did I say any of that stuff?
Well, the best part is,
I said that.
If we're dismissive of shoujo, how come we own a gigantic pile of shoujo? I mean, didn't we just review Here is Greenwood, which is obviously a shoujo? In fact, I believe the English release actually says the word shoujo on it.
It does. I was actually originally weirded out by that because not that I wasn't going to read it or I didn't like it, but watching the original anime, knowing nothing about it, original anime, well, I guess it's not the original anime. I think the manga was the original.
Yes.
Yes. I originally watched the anime, and it seems just like a normal comedy show. It's not a shoujo show.
Well, because shoujo in that case definitely has more to do with the target audience. Also the fact that there is a lot of implied BL in there.
There is quite a bit of BL, especially in the manga. Oh, God. But basically, this all comes down to the fact that when I say the word shoujo, and when I think most anime people in America say the word shoujo, they're referring to a genre based on content.
Yes, it doesn't help that the vast majority of shoujo manga that comes out in the US is all very much similar.
Yeah, I mean, sure, the Japanese definition of shoujo is whatever you say it is, but that's not the definition I'm using. So it's sort of like if Rim says, I don't know,
how about geek and nerd?
I guess it's sort of like geek and nerd.
I mean,
if Rim says geeks should all die, and to me, the word geek means Jews, then Rim's an anti-Semite.
These eggs are anti-Semitic.
They're anti-Semite. Uncle Leo.
See, not even care about that part, even though I do point out again that even a lot of the women who listen to our show contacted us to say, wow, that was a little crazy.
It was quite the craziness, but I think in the end, I'm actually happier with this kind of response to my email, because if they had just responded normally, they would have been like, no, it's not a shoujo, it's a shonen. It was actually published in a magazine, blah, 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 blah. I would have just been like, huh, all right, there's my answer. But instead, I've gotten days of hilarious entertainment power.
Now, my favorite part is that aside from the shoujo whatever argument, and you could talk about that forever. I mean, look, in America, people say otaku and they're proud of it. Otaku is like, I'm a guy who likes anime. But in Japan, otaku is, that's that guy who likes anime.
Hentai is used differently. The word manga, if you want to use the Japanese definition, Spider-Man is manga.
Yep.
So, I mean, sure, some people say stuff like amekomi, but sure, it's also manga.
Well, Disney is anime.
I know, right?
And
Disney is anime.
Anime is actually a French word if you want to get technical.
So, what is the standard we're going to use? Because we are geeks in the U.S. enjoy a great deal of Japanese culture, there's going to be many Japanese words that enter our vernacular, and we're not going to use them the same way the Japanese people do. We're going to use them the way that is most useful to us.
The way languages evolve and all that.
Yeah. And all languages are symbols that represent ideas, and it's up to people as a whole who use those symbols to represent ideas to decide which ideas are represented by which symbols.
Now, the real interesting thing here is that, one, and a lot of people who've read Scott's email have to agree that you really would have had to go out of your way to take that much offense to a relatively benign question. And also, I would note that after a while, she stops talking about all this argument and basically just starts ragging on the fact that we ran an anime club a long time ago and that we apparently have big penises.
I don't know. Maybe she...
I don't know. They might be jealous of our gigantic otaku cocks.
I don't know. I've always gotten the feeling, that maybe Clarissa didn't like us or something because we've communicated a great deal with Anime World Order as a whole, which is 3 people, Gerald, Daryl, and Clarissa.
I mean, the whole relationship started when I met Daryl at a con, and he walks over to me with this little thing, and he's like, you want to be recorded, an interview, podcast, whatever? And I was like, I also do a podcast. Hello.
And, mostly, pretty much 100%, every time we talk to them, it's either Daryl or Gerald talking back to us.
Yeah.
And
in fact,
I
for a
talk
long
to
time,
Daryl and Gerald all the time.
I talked to
cool.
Daryl a lot, and I didn't talk to Gerald a lot until after Otakon when we met, and pretty much the friendship was solidified in gold after they shot us in the face with clown pistols.
Yeah, assholes. I mean, but Clarissa never really talked to us, and we never met her. And I always got the feeling that either maybe she just didn't want to talk to us or secretly hated us for some unknown reason.
I would submit that she has been, for the entirety of our existence, seething with both jealousy and rage. And the two were in this bitter little ball. And I'll bet the next email we had sent to them would have elicited the same response. You could have been, hi guys, I just wanted to say Clarissa's awesome. And it would have been the same tirade.
Could have been. She would have been like, what's with the sarcastic email saying I'm awesome? You say all kinds of stuff is awesome, and that means you hate it.
Yeah, all high and mighty with your RIT anime club. Just happens to have been the biggest anime club in North America for a number of years.
The other thing is, at the beginning of every Anime World Order, they call themselves holier-than-thou know-it-alls that are anything but. Well, how can you yell at someone else for being a know-it-all when you proclaim it about yourself? It's sort of like saying, man, it's like I don't know, it's like a retarded person going up to someone and saying, wow, you're retarded. It's like you're making fun of yourself at the same time.
Now, I also couldn't help but pretty much at the part when she starts going on about, do you know what these mean? Do you know what these words mean? And she says that a bunch more times. I just cut it out, but all I could picture was Napoleon Dynamite going, I'm surprised you didn't know that. Gosh.
Gosh.
But anyway, since we don't want to dwell on that, since we find it hilarious, we're not sure how many other people will find it hilarious, but in the news, AFI Dallas, there's one of the first movie reviews of Paprika, which is
Who got to see it and when?
I don't even know. I just found that a guy named Todd Maternowski.
That's not fair.
Well, he put this up on March 28th.
That's really not fair.
Yeah, that guy saw Paprika way before us.
Asshole.
Yeah. Anyway.
Does he even know what these movies mean?
He talks about this movie in the reverent terms that I would expect someone to talk about this movie. And he definitely has the respect for Satoshi Kon. I'm not going to read the interview or the article. You can read it for yourself. But he basically says that Paprika is really, really, really good and it's a psychological thriller.
Gee, I didn't see that one coming.
Yeah, who would have guessed that Satoshi Kon, the god of psychological thrillers, the best person at it since
Well, I don't
Hitchcock.
know. He's not quite a Hitchcock, but he's the.
I just
he's
was
the
about
new
to say.
animated hit. You want to call him the animated Hitchcock?
I might have to.
No, dude. Now maybe on the back of the DVD for Paprika, they'll say, Satoshi Kon is the animated Hitchcock. Geeknights.
It's funny because I was just about to say that other than Hitchcock when you jumped in there.
Yeah.
I've been on a Hitchcock kick for a while, though, lately.
Yeah, Hitchcock's a good guy. Everyone else out there, if you haven't seen every Hitchcock movie, you should watch just about every Hitchcock movie.
Even the old ones, because the new ones are really, 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 really good. And the old ones are either good or hilarious.
Or both.
Yes. What was that one, The Man Who Knew Too Much with the dentist?
That's a good one. The 59 steps, 49 steps, 39.
I
I don't know
the-
how many steps there were, but
I really
there was
like-
a number of steps.
The
and they were
Lady
all bad.
Vanishes was really good.
Lady Vanishes, I think, is oh man, it's a great one.
Best of the old ones.
It's definitely. All right. So speaking of Keiko Takamiya and shoujo manga and all that Vertical. Vertical, the company that is putting out all the highbrow awesome mangas, you should pretty much buy every manga they release, has announced new manga. Woot! The first manga they have announced will come out in October. It is called Mew. Like M-U, Mew, by Osamu Tezuka.
It might be Moo.
Moo. M-U,
Just
like the
putting
Greek
that forth.
letter.
Yes.
It's actually spelled like M-W. That's how it's spelled on the cover of the book.
All right.
But it's pronounced M-U, Moo, Mew, whatever. It doesn't matter.
Why did the cat fall off the slanted tin roof? Because he lost his Mew.
Yes.
Mew being the coefficient of sliding friction. You see,
Yes.
it's a physics joke.
Yes. Well, anyway, it's a story of an unlikely union and forbidden love between an amoral banker and a priest beset by guilt after they witnessed the massacre of a village. And then a government cover-up. I have a feeling that this one's going to be a lot like an Ode to Kirihito.
And not so much like Phoenix.
And not so much like Phoenix. So if you like the Ode to Kirihitos, you're going to want to buy this book in October. Also, they've announced Andromeda Stories by Keiko Takamiya, which it seems like people really wanted that other one by her, like the first Shonen Ai one, whatever it was called, the one that...
Song of Wind and Trees?
That one.
That one.
That's the one that people really want. But actually, I'm pretty happy they're bringing out this one because it's more sci-fi action.
I pretty much want to read everything she's written at this point.
Yeah, I mean, I'll buy whatever book this was. They could have said it was like, Poop on a Stick by Keiko Takamiya, and I would have still bought it.
It'd be the best damn poop on a stick ever.
Yeah, and that one's only going to be $14, and I think it's also 3 volumes. So, I mean, are all her manga 3 volumes?
I'm liking this not so long thing because I love Here's Greenwood, but as much as I love it, over all these years, I still haven't read the end because it's 8 volumes, and that's not even a long manga series.
Yeah, the only way I can't read a manga series that's more than 20 volumes. Just period. I can't do it. No matter what. Well, I guess Initial D, but other than that, no, I can't do it.
See, I couldn't even read Initial D. I got 1 volume into that and said, fuck this.
Yeah, and the only reason I could read Initial D is because I do it 1 volume at a time every couple months. If you gave me all of Initial D at once, I'd just give you the finger. I'd be like, no, it can't be done. Sorry. You know, I mean,
Granted, it
Death
depends.
Note at
Like,
12 volumes is long.
If somehow, without compromising the pacing in the story, Sanctuary had been 30 or 40 or 50 volumes long, you probably would have just kept reading it in one straight go.
Probably, but if it was all at once, I don't think I could have done it.
I think I could have. I think I could.
I mean, I have a hard enough time reading those big black Marvel essential books I get.
I think there's a reason you have a hard time reading those Marvel.
Even the ones that I like.
Yeah.
Anyway, the third manga that they're releasing is the Guin Saga manga, The Seven Magi by Kaoru Kurimoto.
Has he done anything else?
I'd never heard of this ever. I don't know anything about it. I didn't research it. I know nothing. But I think it's a fantasy, and it deals with dragons and magi.
Oh, really?
Yep.
I have been in a dragon dearth lately.
And people always talk about how, anime fans, they like fantasy. but most anime tends to be sci-fi or not fantasy.
Well, what have been the last great fantasy anime? I mean, obviously,
Lodoss War,
Escaflowne, 12 Kingdoms.
I didn't see that.
I guess Brave Story, the movie.
Brave Story's fantasy, yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
But I mean, when you really get down to think about, like, if you
Slayers.
yeah, true. But if you ask someone, like, are there...
Utawa Rumono.
I don't know if that really counts, but...
I think it does.
Anyway, if you go up and ask someone, like, hey, are there lots of fantasy anime that are awesome? Someone will say, yeah, there are lots of awesome fantasy anime. But then when you get down to counting them, you can write them all on one piece of paper with big text. It's really not so many, and even less that are really good. So if Vertical thinks it's good... oh yeah, finally, we got a fantasy manga that is the hotness, I suppose.
But Scott, I thought you were a sexist who wouldn't read anything that girls wrote, so why are you excited about Keiko's manga?
Gee, I don't know. Maybe it's because, I don't know, because it's awesome.
Pitakara Suichi.
Oh, you gotta start doing that.
You remember way back, we did a thing of the day where it was basically a bunch of these Rube Goldberg machine videos from this educational show on TV in Japan. Well, that show has not failed to disappoint. Aside from having those awesome shorts, they've also had these algorithm dances. If you can't figure out what an algorithm dance would be, I'd suggest you just watch this video, and all will become clear rather quickly. Continue watching, and you will see what happens when you add ninjas to an algorithm dance.
I get the feeling that this show is a lot like Square One was to us. So, I mean, think about how far we've come. If first we watched Square One, and then we wanted to watch Square One, but we couldn't. And then we got the internet, so we searched for Square One, and we found it. And now we're not satisfied, so we have to watch the Japanese equivalent of Square One.
It does make me happy. I remember as a kid, like when the internet... Remember, you used to not be able to find stuff like this. The ability to find video on the internet at all is a crazy new idea, yet we're already totally dependent on it. If YouTube disappeared, we wouldn't know what to do.
All I gotta say is I really want to watch Russian Square One.
Oh, yes.
Oh, yeah.
If you have two copy lists, and one of them is executed in the back of the proletariat... Anyway, these things are about as amusing as the length of the video, so check it out.
Yeah, it's all right. I wasn't big a fan. But...
I don't know. I like stuff like this. I wish they would have been more complex, but I have the feeling if they were more complex, kids wouldn't be able to just figure them out and do them.
Yeah, well, all right. I've been doing a lot of stuff involving old comics lately. You know, I'm reading old Dick Tracy comics. I just read Cavalier and Clay, which is all about old comics, and everyone should read that book. It's like my new favorite novel. Yeah.
Yeah, for those of you who think that American comics just started at underwear perverts and stayed underwear perverts, there was this whole era of detective stories and pirate stories.
I mean, the comics really started as comic strips in the newspaper, but even back then, comics started out awesome in the U.S., and then they got crappy, and now they're getting awesome again. Mostly because manga is forcing the issue.
Yes.
And it was only crappy in the middle, the long middle. And back in the day, there were a lot of people making comics in the early days. You know, there was Will Eisner, who's the best comics ever. There's Chester Gould, the Dick Tracy guy. There were a bunch of other people too, but one guy whose name keeps coming up, but I didn't know anything about him, is Milton Caniff, or Milton Caniff, C-A-N-I-F-F. And he's famous for two things, as far as I know. Number one of them is Terry and the Pirates, which I really want to read because it's pirates, but I can't find it.
I don't know. A lot of things I've wanted to check out because they were pirates have turned out to be either, at best, a tenuous link to pirates or absolutely god-awful.
Well, no, I can guarantee this is not god-awful.
Except for Polly and the Pirates.
Yeah, well, right here, I have my thing of the day. Some guy was going through the estate of Milton Caniff with his family because he's going to do a DVD release of the live-action Steve Canyon television series. That's the other thing he's famous for, is the Steve Canyon comic in the newspaper. And when he was there, he found a bunch of inks of daily and Sunday comic strips of Steve Canyon. And with permission, they've scanned them in, and you can read them at this website. Now, look at this for a second. Look how awesome this is. Compare this to, like, I don't know...
1960s Superman?
1970s Spider-Man or Fantastic
1980s
Four.
Superman? 1990s Superman?
Yeah. This is like 1940s and 1930s, 1950s, like war comics, you know, cowboys and Navy guys and all that sort of stuff. And you look at it and it's just like, wow, comics really went downhill, didn't they?
How did it go from that to the Infinity Identity Gauntlet Crisis, whatever?
Imagine if comics had gone from here and American comics had taken this and continually improved instead of going downhill into the superhero crap shit and
that's like
kept
saying,
improving all the way until today.
That's like saying, imagine if Rome hadn't fallen and it just continued on until
Imagine
today.
if Rome hadn't fallen and we still had Roman concrete and Damascus steel. That is how good these comics are. And whether you're a fan of comics at all, whether you were alive, whether you've ever heard the name Milton Caniff before, whether you know who Steve Canyon is, it doesn't matter. You should go and read. It's just like a handful of scanned-in comic strips. They're 3 or 4 panels each. It won't hurt you to take the 15 minutes to look at them. And I just want everyone to see that old comics are freaking awesome and superhero comics kind of suck.
Yes. I concur. So, speaking of things that are awesome and things that suck, a while ago we talked about how we were excited about this anime called Moonlight Mile.
Yes, I download pretty much, I go to Anime Ski every day, and I subscribe to the RSS feed. And if there's any show that has a number 1 that I haven't seen before, or if there's a promo for a show, I'll look up to see if the show might be interesting, and I'll watch a promo. It takes 5 minutes. Why not?
You also might remember that we used to review a lot of anime, well, not review, but I guess preview, a lot of anime when 1 or 2 episodes came out, just to talk about it. And lately, we've kind of been reviewing a lot of old stuff or things we've watched.
That's because new shows stopped coming out because we're in between seasons.
But
now
we also skipped a lot of those first episodes because they were all pretty bad.
Yeah. But, you know, a new anime season is starting. If you go to Anime Ski right now, there's like 3 or 4 number 1 episodes of new shows that are just being fan subbed. New anime are coming out, people, and we're going to tell you which ones to watch and which ones to not even bother downloading.
So, there are certain genres in anime and manga that are very much, at least in the US, underrepresented. These are the genres that include such things as realistic mecha, military conflict, realistic military
serious
conflict.
Military conflict, not, you know, Gundam military conflict or Gun Parade March military conflict.
Yes, political machinations. And when I say political stuff, I mean Gasaraki level. Because Gasaraki...
Sanctuary level, first president of Japan, Eagle level.
I mean, if you think that Gundam Wing, or really any Gundam, was actually a political show or a political manga... No. Gasaraki, which included giant robots, was primarily about grain exports.
Yep.
Yes.
That's how political that shit is. But... I mean, Ghost in the Shell also is kind of political. I mean, it's mostly about refugees.
Yeah, and Ghost in the Shell is right up our alley.
Yep, well, second gig anyway. The other parts of Ghost in the Shell are not about refugees. They're about cyberspace.
But they're also right up our alley.
Yes. We watched the promotional clip for Moonlight Mile where they interviewed the guys doing the anime, and they showed a lot of clips from the show. And this show had all the following elements. You ready? Politics, robots, space,
mountain climbing,
badass people, high animation production values,
world politics and war. They showed Navy ships and big battles going on between
aircraft
armies.
carriers and fighter jets and walking robots and flying spaceships and factories on the moon and
now,
space
most
stations and astronauts. And
it had, and it was very obvious from this, it had that element that we love so much that was in Sanctuary and Eagle and everything, where there's 2 men or just 2 people who together, despite their different backgrounds, have become friends and are now walking forward with their own 2 feet toward destiny.
Dun dun. So we saw this promo and we said, man, that's going to be a good show right there.
Now consider this, aside from just all the things that had, the promo wasn't done like a lot of the other promos we've seen. It was high production value. The anime has obviously got a lot of backing behind it.
It's got a lot of money behind it.
It is definitely one of those high production, check this out, this is,
Well, it's based on a manga, and I don't know much about the manga, because there really isn't that much information on the
it was
internet.
written by Yasuo Otagaki.
Yep. I saw it in the store, because I was in the Japanese bookstore last week, and there are a lot of volumes of it, which means this must be popular in Japan, and just looking at the covers in the pages of the manga, it looked a lot like the anime. So that's all I can say about that.
Yes, well, the Anime News Network lists this guy as having written Moonlight Mile, the manga, and Moonlight Mile, the TV. He's credited as the creator of the manga on which it was based.
Oh, well, that's good then.
Yes. But this promo, aside from obviously making it known that this is the big production thing, if anything, I'd guess that the manga was super popular and people have been looking forward to this in Japan for a while. Mm-hmm. But the promo gave us this feeling, that rare feeling that this is going to be one of those awesome shows.
Well, I think the thing that really gave me a good feeling in the promo was they showed these two guys climbing Mount Everest, and they showed that these guys on the top of Mount Everest could see space. They could see a space station. And I was like, can you really see space from Mount Everest?
And the scene was just done so well. You see these two men on the very top of the world, and they've gotten there under their own blood, sweat, guts, steel, and
they want to go higher.
Yeah, they're not satisfied with that. And they climb Mount Everest just to sit there and say, I want to go up there.
Yeah.
And then it cuts up, and now space. And that's where the show is actually going to take place. And the way it was put together, there was no way this could be bad. This is going to be the greatest anime ever made.
Well, maybe not the greatest ever made, but one of the greatest ever made.
Now, I probably should have thought about this because I remember when this exact thing happened to us once before.
When did it happen before?
Well, way back, we saw the promo for a movie called Casshern. And the promotional trailer...
Well, I think it's called Casshern. Casshern.
Well, that was loosely based on Kashan or Casshern Robot Hunter, which is this god-awful anime.
Yes, we didn't realize that at first. That was a trick, because it was a different spelling. There was this great trailer for a live-action, like, sort of Japanese super action movie called Casshern, Casshern. And we said, that trailer looks like the best movie ever made.
And we were excited about it, and we were looking forward to this. We were
so excited with the high expectations.
It was one of those things where everyone we showed the trailer to said, when is that coming out? Oh my god.
Yes. It was like, I need to see that now. I need to see that yesterday, 10 times. Then it finally came out, and we watched it. And first thing we realized was, oh, this is based on Robot Hunter Kassan, Casshahn.
Which, again, is one of the worst anime ever made.
One of the worst anime. And then we watched the movie. And while it had lots of awesome special effects and the occasional but short action scene of awesome, it was pretty god-awful.
Now, we've been bitten once by this, and we didn't learn our lesson.
Well, there was no way I could relate Moonlight Mile to Kassan.
Yes, I didn't relate
Hunter.
until after the fact. You see, we were so excited about this, and this promo made it look so awesome. I recommend, if nothing else, watch the promo to this and try to tell me this doesn't look like a great show.
Unless you're a crappy person, you don't like this sort of thing.
So then, we got a hold of episode 1, and the opening scene, like the opener, the minute and 30-second thing.
The thing that happens before the opener with the music, like the prologue, the thing that would say prologue on the DVD. It shows this woman on the moon, and she's an astronaut. And she's just astronauting around, And something happens, and it's no good. And, like, her friend dies, and she's alone.
She's trapped on the moon. Well, there's a base on the moon and all this stuff, but she is too far away from anyone to get help. She's running out of oxygen. She's going to die. She knows of one place where there might be an oxygen tank or two stashed where she can maybe, if she runs crazily and practically kills herself from exhaustion, can get there and survive for a few more minutes.
Yep. So pretty much, she's dead. The only way she can possibly live is to run on the moon really fast, which you'd think would be easy because it's low gravity, but it's actually pretty hard because you're wearing a heavy spacesuit that weighs hundreds of pounds. And she starts running and jumping across the moon as fast as she can to get to this oxygen tank, which is the only way she can live.
And she stumbles upon, this isn't a spoil, this happens right away.
This is the first thing that happens in the show.
She stumbles upon all this stuff. She comes over a ridge, and there's stuff there. There's some sort of base. There's all these sentry robots. And she realizes immediately that she's just seen something that she was not supposed to see.
Yeah, I mean, it's one thing if, like, the Apollo guys, they come with their little lunar lander, whatever, and then they see, like, a giant base. Now, it's one thing if that base was put there by aliens, and it's like, oh, an alien base, and you have one sort of plot. What if that base was put there by some Earth people, and you're, like, the astronauts have this crap technology, and someone else on Earth has much better technology, and it's on the moon already. and no one knows about it. But you right now.
Or even just along the lines of, you've stumbled onto some sort of secret military thing that you weren't supposed to know about.
Yeah,
and
like
you
imagine
are
if you
now
were just
fucked.
running around in the desert and all of a sudden you were in Area 51 and there were like stuff there that you weren't supposed to see.
And this scene was really, really well done.
Oh, it was so great. Like, as soon as I saw this scene, I was like, oh, yeah, that's what it's about.
And all of us are sitting around and go, wow, this is actually going to be a great anime. And then the opening starts, the minute and 30-second music thing. And the opener has the most pump you up, this is going to be an epic political thriller music you've ever heard.
Well, I don't know. The music actually in the opener I don't think is that epic.
Well, it pumps you up. It definitely keeps you on edge.
It does.
And the thing is,
I think what really is great about the opener is all the things they show you, because they basically show you all the stuff that you see in the preview that was so awesome. Is they're showing you space and robots and politics and aircraft carriers and people being badass climbing mountains, and all that stuff is in the opener. And you see that all, and you go, oh yeah, this is the show, because they're showing you all the stuff that you want to see. And you're like, oh, I can't wait to see all that some more.
Now, here's the...
It's like a taste.
Earliest,
it's like letting you lick the foie gras, but then not feeding it to you.
The earliest sign of trouble with this anime was that after all that, the opener ends and the show starts. That epic music pretty much keeps playing constantly in every scene. And... you know, sometimes music can build you to an emotional crescendo, or can heighten a mood, or pump you up a little bit, or keep you on edge. What if the music just doesn't stop, and it's always just holding you on edge, and keeping you in suspense, and it just never lets up?
I didn't really notice it after a while.
Yeah, until we watched the second episode, and I noticed it through the whole thing because I was paying attention to it.
Oh, I didn't even notice any music at all playing. I couldn't tell. If you played the song for this show, I couldn't tell you.
Really? The episode we just watched had epic music playing almost the entire time.
Yeah, it's like if I think about it, I'm like, yeah, there was, but I can't actually bring the music to my mind because it was not good or memorable at all.
It was kind of like if you're watching a movie, the music they would play at the climax of an important action scene is just playing continuously throughout this show.
Yeah, they really should have called the Hacksign Noir person who does that music to do this show.
Music like that might have fit this show really well.
I know.
However, all that aside, it starts out, much like you would expect, with these two guys climbing Mount Everest, and backstories on them, and all sorts of political things. It kind of sets up the whole show in the first episode, bit by bit.
Yeah, the first episode is kind of weird. I've only seen 2 episodes, but they were way different. And the first episode obviously sort of touches on every possible area of the plot a little bit, so that anything they just jump into in the future, you're not totally lost on. You know, it's like, all right, we have these 3 or 4 plot lines, maybe 5. We're going to start off each one of them, but mostly we're going to start off the big one, which is the 2 main characters who want to go into space and they climb Mount Everest.
Yes, the basic plot, as far as anyone will be able to tell you in this show, is that Earth is typical Earth, and as always, there are energy shortages.
It's in the future, so there's high technology.
But not the too far off future.
Yeah.
It's definitely the within our lifetime
It's like the 20-somethings.
And they've discovered helium-3 on the moon, which they can now use in reactors to make energy. Mm-hmm. So the plan is to build nuclear reactors and mines on the moon and beam the power with microwaves back to the Earth.
That's the plan.
Now, consider for a moment, most anime, if they did something like that, would just leave it at that, and there'd be this plot semi-unrelated to that. In this show, you can already see where this is going a little bit because they treat it realistically. All right, so we're going to spend massive effort to get a lot of energy from the moon. Energy like that would marginalize a lot of Middle Eastern powers that currently have a stranglehold on the world's oil reserves. It would have great socio-political ramifications. Also, the fact that only a few nations are spaceflight capable. I mean, currently in the real world, how many countries have the resources to go to the moon at all, let alone do anything there?
We can't even remember how to get there. We could do it in the 60s, we can't do it now.
So this is obviously a huge, huge, huge deal. And that is kind of where the plot is going. But the plot initially follows more these 2 guys, the main characters, climbing Mount Everest in their goal to eventually go into space.
Yes, basically you have these 2 guys, and all they do is they were mountain climbers. They wanted to go higher and higher. And by the time one of them was like 22 years old, they climbed the highest mountain on every continent. It was like, oh, they couldn't get any better. And then in the first episode, they climb Everest, and it's like, oh, shits. And it's like, oh, where are we going to go from here? well, we have to go to space where there are no limits.
Yeah, now the two men, it's one of those typical tropes of one of them is a Japanese guy, Goro, and the other one...
he's kind of silly, and he likes to drink a lot, and he womanizes.
He likes to be naked.
He likes to be naked, that's for sure.
See, this is where the show really takes a turn. I'm really interested in the show. I think it has a lot of potential. However, one, Goro is more naked more often than is necessary to the plot.
Two, the other guy is like this boring straight man. And
Lostaman is the American, and he's the smooth, cool, hello, I am the American.
Yeah, but it's like...
I pilot fighter jets for a living.
Yeah, it's like Goro is like the cool, normal-ish guy you can kind of relate to, but he's kind of weird and naked all the time, so you don't really want to relate to him.
He's like a caricature of a really manly guy, and they go a little too far with it. So it's not just like, oh, he's a ladies' man, but they continually show him having sex with women.
Yeah, and Lost Man is like the stereotypical, like, hard-ass, doesn't say anything. He's like the Terminator almost.
See, now here's the thing. I don't think that's going to be an issue, because we've only seen 2 episodes. Episode 1 set up the whole show. Episode 2, all about Goro. I'm almost certain that episode 3 is all about Lost Men.
I'm pretty sure it is. How could it not be? If it wasn't, the show would make no sense. But it seems like with the show... I think the major problem I have with the show is that it tries to do a whole lot in a small amount of space.
Yeah, this might be mitigated later on, but the first episode especially crammed like 8 episodes worth of stuff and ideas into 1 episode.
Yeah, episode 2 basically took Goro from finishing climbing Mount Everest to, yes, now you can go into space in 1 episode. It's like, whoa, that was a lot of stuff. Usually... an anime would drag that out to like 3 episodes, being like, is he gonna get into space? Ooh.
Yeah, there were definitely points in the episode where I thought, wow, if this was a normal anime, they would have spent a couple episodes on that right there.
I guess it's better than what some anime do, where they have a big, long story they want to tell and not so many episodes. So they either just cut it short and leave you hanging, or they cram... They'll go at a normal pace and then cram the whole rest of it into like 1 episode. It's unintelligible.
I am Scrap Princess, where the entire show, all of the plot, took place after the eye catch in the last episode.
And like Beck Mongolian Chop Squad, which the manga is actually really, really good, but the anime, which is equally good, crammed. They did 26 episodes of plot at the normal pacing, and then after the end of the 26th episode, during the credits, they took the entire rest of the manga and crammed it into that, like, an epilogue, while the credits were rolling.
Now, the thing is, the pace isn't bad. I mean, this pace is working for me so far, because every time I start to lose interest in anything that's going on at all, immediately the plot has progressed a little bit. Mm-hmm. However, I think the point where we really started to question it was during the first episode, where everything's going along normally, albeit a little confusedly. And then, I think it was right after the eye catch, the show reopens with what looks like an orgy for a second.
I had to go back and watch it because I didn't understand what the hell was going on or why there was an orgy. I didn't want it... Don't confuse it for wanting to see the orgy again, because that's the easy joke to make.
We're all sitting there. Was that a bunch of Sherpas having sex? I think that was a bunch of Sherpas having sex.
And we just go back, and it's basically Goro having sex with a Sherpa girl, and then Lostman having sex with a Sherpa girl.
And they're right next to each other.
And they have giant, like, Zangief-style muscles. I don't know why.
All the men seem to have giant Zangief-style muscles. The thing is, this does remind me in a lot of ways of, like, Sanctuary in terms of what goes on and the pacing. And, I mean, there's all this sexually charged content. And especially in the second episode, you'll often have characters having a conversation while they're having sex. And they just show it pretty much straight up.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes, I'm not against characters having sex. And a lot of times it makes sense. Like in Sanctuary, pretty much all the time there's a sexy scene. It makes sense.
Oh, you mean like the time where the creepy old politician says, "Come, Maasami, mount this woman with me.
Yes.
Prove that you have the guts to be a politician."
That's a very important scene because of what he says right after that, which is, Hojo has to do things 10,000 times worse than this. And then you see Hojo just sitting there, like, having
living it up
with a cigar and a drink. And it's like, it's a hilarious joke. That's why it's necessary. But in this... a lot of it seems kind of unnecessary. Like, they didn't even say anything about the Sherpa sex. And only upon thinking about it, you realize, oh, in case they die on Everest, is one last fuck.
And actually, it all really makes sense, and it's done pretty well. And that idea that they're living life to the fullest, they might die, so they're going to do everything they can to enjoy their last day just in case.
Yeah.
And it's pretty, I mean, as deep
The
as
thing
you would
is,
expect.
they just kind of throw that orgy in there. You don't realize what it is unless you think about it and maybe watch it again. Like, it was so quick. Well, I guess it wasn't. I didn't even realize who was fucking who. I just like, oh my God, an orgy. What the hell?
Yeah.
It just popped out of nowhere.
Like orgies tend to.
I guess. I don't know. I wouldn't know.
Now, the thing is, the second episode, there's two characters, other characters having sex. And it's actually, I really like the relationship between these two characters. They're obviously lovers, yet at the same time, it starts out like the guy seems like he's using this woman to get ahead. And this woman is like his spy, and he has power over her. But then, very quickly, it is revealed that she is also using him. And
she even says so. She's like, yeah, I'm using you also.
And she has equal power over him. They both have power over each other and blackmail and everything. And they're both relying on each other. And it's like the most stereotypical yet well done marriage or alliance of convenience. But yet, all right, so they're
it's
having...
also an alliance of convenient evil.
So they're having sex. All right, no big deal. There's a lot of scenes in Sanctuary where two people are having sex while they talk about politics, and it usually makes sense. But then, very shortly after, there's another scene where they're in a hot tub now, and they're still talking. And while they don't say anything, it's so obvious that she was giving him an underwater blowjob that is painful.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't need to know that. You've already established that they're lovers. You've already established that there's a sexually charged relationship between these two. You don't need to keep showing them having sex 3 more times during the episode. I get it.
Yeah.
I get it. Oh, Goro's a crazy guy, likes to wear his underwear and have sex with women. I don't need to see him plowing some girl during his break in the crane more than once.
Yeah.
Granted, the fact that girl became a little bit plotty later was kind of cool.
It did redeem that scene a little bit.
Yeah, basically, they're looking for Goro because they can't find him. And eventually, the woman who knows about him, if you realize that it's the same woman, it's not as funny. But it looks like she just goes to where he works, looks around, sees a woman, and says, "Where's Goro hanging out?" Like that woman would just know because obviously Goro has had sex with that woman.
Yeah. Anyway, I think the thing with Moonlight Mile is that it has all the elements of a show that should be the awesomest show, but because of the way it's done so far, after watching the first 2 episodes, I'd be willing to watch more. I might like to watch more. I hope that in the rest of the episodes it goes more towards the serious political thing that the trailer promised, but I'm just not feeling too strongly about it.
The thing is, they're set up to do everything right. And if I'm right in assuming that the manga is actually very popular and good, then my best guess is that the people doing it are trying to establish all the backstory as quickly as possible in order to then spend as much time as they can on the meat of the show, because there's obviously a lot of meat there.
Yeah, I mean, I saw at least 20 volumes in the store, so... Yes,
and the trailer alone gives you 15 or 16 solid pieces of meat that you're waiting for.
Yeah, so... I kind of hope they bring the manga out in English.
Oh, I do too, because we have that problem in general.
The next time an anime company asks what manga they should bring out in English, ask for Moonlight Mile.
I'll also be very interested to see if and when this gets licensed, because if it is as high production value, or at least as big as I'm guessing it will be, in Japan, then I'd bet that the company involved is probably not going to want it licensed in the US very quickly, because that would, of course, entail a lot of reimportation of our cheap $20 American DVDs.
The other thing is that this anime doesn't seem like the kind of thing that would be licensed in the US.
And that's what I hate about living in America. All the manga I want, and all the anime I really want, never come out here.
Yeah, they only bring out, the same shoujo stuff and the same shonen fighting stuff that they always bring out. And they bring all that stuff out right away, no matter what it is. And the stuff that might potentially be cool or, somehow political or...
Go to a Japanese bookstore and look in certain sections. You'll see an entire wall of manga that look like they're just cool Yakuza guys talking to each other and shooting people. Or politicians arguing.
I saw a golf manga. Beat that.
I don't know if that's quite in league with Yakuza guys shooting at each other.
I'm just saying, it looked like a serious, manga for, 40-year-old golf players.
Uh-huh.
I also saw a manga that was about, 50-year-old people romance. You don't see the 50-year-old romance. All you see is the teen romance.
Because that's not going to sell to the 14 to 14 and a half year old demographic that the manga publishers in America seem to be rooting for right now.
Would you read the 50-year-old people romance?
I don't know. I might. You never know. It might be good.
Has anyone ever tried to release that kind of stuff?
Has anyone ever tried? I mean, Sanctuary and Eagle were both released in the U.S., and I think it's one of the greatest crimes in manga publishing in the U.S. to date that they have not been re-released.
Well, it's because when they originally brought anime and manga over, it was all about the violence and the sex and the OMG Japanimation.
Yeah, check this out. Cartoons can be violent and horrible.
Yeah, I mean, Sanctuary and all that stuff was originally released as comic books. The same format as all the shitty Underwear Perfect comics. Every month another issue would come out. And that's how they were sold. They were sold in comic book stores to comic book fans in the 90s. And it didn't work out so well. And that's why they stopped doing it that way. And then when Tokyo Pop and everyone started doing manga the new way, they did it with the shoujo mangas and things. And that's what made the big money. So rather than risk it and try different genres, they just stick with one the whole time. And it's kind of annoying.
Yeah, we talked about this yesterday with the video game industry, too, about how risk-averse pretty much every industry in the world is becoming lately. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's true of video games. It's true of at least American anime publishing and manga publishing.
Yeah, and it's pretty much turned into where, back in the day, nobody would think about buying something to support it. Like that idea of buying something just to, help the company out or vote for certain sorts of products, that didn't exist, until the recent years. I never even heard that idea before. And now it's sort of like, yeah, if Vertical puts out a manga, you should buy it because that's where the awesome manga are. And if we want more awesome manga, we're going to have to buy it or else we're not going to get any.
Oh, well, maybe the tide will turn. For the time being, if you like that sort of thing or any of the stuff we've talked about, at least check out Moonlight Mile.
Yeah, it's definitely worth your time to watch the trailer. And if you like the trailer, it's worth it to watch the first episode.
Just be warned that while it may be very good, and I'm not sure yet, I'll have to see pretty much the whole show to be able to pass judgment on it because I'm really, really torn as to the whole time I'm thinking, do I like this? I like where it's going, but do I like it right now?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, the only thing this show doesn't have is it doesn't give me that feeling that I need of, oh yeah. Like, I just sit there and I watch it and I go, I just saw everything I wanted to see. But I don't have any good feelings about it. But I don't have any bad feelings either.
Yeah, but at the same time, how few shows ever, in any genre, anything, any medium, not just anime, give us that feeling?
All the awesome ones.
Yeah, but there aren't that many.
No, there really aren't.
It's hard to find things that really transcend any medium or genre or whatever and become one of those shows that you remember, that you want to watch again. I mean, Escaflowne, because we mentioned it earlier, that's a show that I liked so much that I've seen it a few times, and someday I plan to watch it again just because I enjoyed it that much.
Yep.
I don't think I'll ever watch Moonlight Mile again.
I don't think so either.
But I'm going to watch it once.
I might watch it once.
I think I'm committed to watching it all the way through. But just be warned that this is not like other anime. It's not going to look like what you expect. It's not going to be paced the way you expect. The scenes aren't going to be the kind of scenes you'll expect. And that may or may not be a good thing. So give it a chance. If you like this sort of thing, I'm sorry there's not much more of it out there. If you hate this sort of thing, go back to watching Dragon Ball, Naruto, Bleach.
Yeah. Oh, and I guess this actually, if you're the kind of person who listens to Geeknights on Wednesday, but you're not particularly an anime fan, and this might be a show for you because it doesn't have a lot of the anime stereotypes.
In fact, it has almost none of them. It has some manga stereotypes, but they're stereotypes from manga that many of you have never read.
Yeah,
so it doesn't matter.
Like, hey, everybody's getting drunk, and then they draw a red line across their face, and stuff like that.
It's stuff that you're not going to notice it. You're not going to see, sweat drop anime, blah, blah, blah. You're just going to see, stylized guys doing stuff.
Yep.
Politics. Oh. This has been Geeknights with Rim and Scott. Special thanks to DJ Pretzel for the opening music.
Be sure to visit our website at www.frontrowcrew.com, where you'll find show notes, links, our awesome forum, a link to our Frapper map, and links to all the RSS feeds.
We say feeds plural because Geeknights airs 4 nights a week, covering 4 different brands of geekery. Mondays are science and technology. Tuesdays, we have video games, board games, and RPGs. Wednesdays are anime, manga, comic nights. And Thursdays are the catch-alls for various rants and tomfoolery.
You can send us feedback by email to geeknights@frontrowcrew.com. Or you can send audio feedback via Audio. Just click the link that says Send Me an Audio on the right side of our website.
If you like what you hear, you can catch the last 100 episodes in iTunes or in your favorite podcatcher. For the complete archives, visit the website, which has everything.
Geeknights is distributed under a Creative Commons Attribution Non-Commercial Share-alike 2.5 license. This means you can do whatever you want with it as long as you give us credit, don't make money, and share it in kind. Geeknights is recorded live with no studio and no audience. But unlike those other late shows, it's actually recorded at night.